Hey guys, this is DeWood with Auto Marketplace. I'm here with Abe from NYC Taxi News, and we're here to talk about Abe's new book. And so, Abe, do you want to tell us about your new book and what it's about, and what the name of it is? And we'll provide a link, obviously, to for where to buy it and stuff like that.
Well, this is the book, and it's Let's Go for a Ride. Okay, this book was put together with stories that I guess I'm not the only one that if they write a book doesn't write it all at once, but there are stories that people are that are amusing for people to read. Okay, of my passengers that I had over the years. Okay, and things that happened. Okay, mainly. Okay, there is also I wrote for a publication, a taxi industry publication called Mini Press. I did a column for 16 years called Cab Gab. Okay,
and just so people have background, because I know a lot of our audience is gonna, we do our podcast, you, me, and Carolyn all do that podcast, but you want to give people a background, like how many years, when did you start in the industry, where you grew up, how many years you did
on
the yellow cab?
On September, let me just say this, and this is in the book. To make a long story short, I was in the U.S. Army. I got drafted into the U.S. Army on my 20th birthday. Okay, it was during the Vietnam War. I thank the Lord, if there is one, that they didn't send me to Vietnam. Okay, it was a horrible experience for anybody, and it was a horrible time to see all of the young men getting killed for what we know now was basically no reason at all. Okay. Yep. But right towards the end of my 2 years in the Army, we were assigned to be trained for riot control. Okay, and now if you want to know what that means, is if you know the song by Crosby, Stills and Nash called Ohio. Okay, the U.S. Army went into a college.
Is that Kent State? Is that the Kent State,
right? Yeah. And wound up killing 4 innocent people just for demonstrating, and we were assigned to do that training. This is prior to that, but it was a year after the riots in Chicago. Okay, and I remember saying to myself, I hope they don't send me there, because the last thing I want to do is hold a gun against people that I might be a part of the crowd of if I wasn't in the Army. Okay, because I believed in what they were doing. Okay, but in the training, I was ordered to drive my company commander around in a Jeep. I was a chauffeur. Okay, and I had gotten a letter from a friend of mine suggesting that when I get out of the Army, I might want to try driving a taxi. Okay, in New York. So here we are driving around. I had about 15 days to go before I got out, and the captain, I don't remember his last name, said to me, and he's doing it because they if they could get people to re-enlist, I think they were getting a bonus, right? And he asked me if I would re-enlist, and I said to him, "Sir, now you got to imagine I'm driving in the front seat, and he's sitting in the back seat, just like a taxi cab, right?" Yeah. I said to him, "Sir, why should I drive you around for free when I can go to New York and get paid for this?"
Oh, that's a great answer. Yeah.
and that was the end of the conversation. Okay. And when I got out of the Army, okay, I took the first job I could find. It was in a handbag factory on West 28th Street. Right.
A hand knitting factory?
Handbag.
Oh, handbag factory.
Women's handbags.
Yeah.
I needed a job fast. Okay. I mean, I was all alone. My parents had moved out of the state. Okay, and I had nowhere. I had rented a room for $12 a week near Brooklyn College. Okay, and I went into the city every day. Okay,
And this is like this is like late 1960s or early
this
1970s.
is 1970.
Okay,
You know,
1970 on the dot.
yeah,
Okay.
I was released from the army in February 1970. Excuse me while I take a sip of water.
Oh, no worries. Okay, so
Okay.
you're in the you did this kind of a little bit of time in the army. You're driving around the commander. You're back in New York. You're adding, you're working at the handbag factory. So now, how do you transition into the yellow cab industry? What like year is your? What is your first taxi trip?
I remember I met a girl
Okay,
in Greenwich Village. Okay,
very
and
famous start to many stories. Yeah.
I met a girl in Greenwich Village, and we became you know part-time lovers.
Fair.
Okay,
Okay.
and she's another story, and that's another thing. Okay, but I remember we were in Greenwich Village. There's a place where people play basketball there. I think it's on West Third Street or West Fourth Street. Okay, and Sixth Avenue. Okay,
Oh, I
and
know. Yep. Mhm.
yeah, and I remember sitting down. We were sitting down on a bench together. Okay, and I said, and I was watching all the cabs go by, and I'm saying, I think I want to drive a taxi.
Hmm.
I said, and then the next thing I knew, I had applied for a license. It cost $5.
Now, did the TLC didn't the TLC
Exists
get created in 1972 or something, or was it?
71.
So were did you get
There
your
was no
license?
TLC.
So you
I
got your license when there was no TLC.
Right, I got it from the police department.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay.
Okay.
How did that process? Do you have to go to like a precinct and get the license?
I don't recall everything, but it was very simple. You just,
Okay.
I just had to show my driver's license. I needed a chauffeur's license.
Okay.
So I believe I went and I took a test for, it's a written test, not a driving test. And I got a chauffeur's license. And then I had to have an exam, a medical exam, okay, which wasn't much. They basically looked you in the eyes and said, "Get out of here. You're okay."
Yeah, you can see you can exactly see
They
straight.
do it. I'm
Yeah.
sure if nowadays, if you needed a medical test, they would put you in a hospital, keep you there for a month, and make you pay, right?
Exactly. Take a blood test, take a DNA
Yeah,
test, everything. Exactly.
right. But and I don't recall whether I was sponsored by this garage or I just walked in the door with my hack license and they hired me immediately. The garage was in Brooklyn, right next door to Brooklyn College, and just off the intersection of Flatbush and Nostrand.
Now, back in those days,
Yeah.
which is really interesting, like 1970s, you lived it. A lot of people saw it in the movies. I mean, wasn't Robert De Niro's Taxi Driver was
That was 1976.
okay. So
I,
you're kind
I,
of
I had
living, yeah.
already had my experience by the time that movie was made.
So what was the taxi industry like? And just so people like, what was New York like in the 70s? What was being a taxi driver like in the
Well, I'm
70s?
glad you brought up the movie Taxi Driver. Okay, I don't know of any driver that did what Robert De Niro did in the
Fair,
movie.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the background setting of the film, was very real.
Okay.
Okay, the hook is on the street. Okay, the pimp.
Like the seediness, kind of the griminess, if you will.
It was like that until Rudy Giuliani became mayor.
So you're saying it was like that throughout because I remember New York went bankrupt in the or was going to go bankrupt in the mid 70s, and the whole country was in a bad economic state through that
Right,
time. So
right.
you're saying 1970s through 1980s, it's starting to recover, but until Giuliani in the, I guess, late 80s, early 90s, or when he became.
Giuliani, he lost to David Dinkins, um, and then came back and beat him in 1992.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
And so what was it like? So you're driving, what was like your first car? Did you have to split the shift? Like how did that all
I
look? What were
I
the people
I,
like?
I worked um, the night shift. I would go to work at 4 o'clock and drive until 3, 4 in the morning.
And
Okay.
was that by choice, or is that like give the rookie the night shift sort of
Well,
dynamic?
the funny thing was I liked the job.
No, I mean, that's
You
great.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
I found out almost immediately that I want to do this.
What did you like about it? Like, what was just
I
talking to
liked the
people?
fact that, number one, I didn't have to show up for work if I didn't feel like it. Okay. I liked the contact with the passengers. Okay. The opportunity to have discussions with people I didn't know, back and forth. Okay. That was fun. And uh it was
It could be as simple as that. That you just
and I
like
didn't
it.
have to wait for somebody to tell me you could have your lunch now, or you can go to the bathroom now. In the U.S. Army, the place that I was before that they controlled every moment of your life.
So it was like
Okay?
it was the total opposite of that,
It was
essentially.
the total opposite, right? Okay, because when I got out of the Army, and I wrote it in the book. Well, I wrote it in my other book. I'm not sure if I wrote it in this one, but I wrote about the fact that all I wanted was to have no boss, okay, to be able to work when I want, and not work when I didn't want, okay.
In so many ways, it's similar to why people enter the industry today, you could argue.
Yeah, but it's different today because when you have to lease a car for a week and make a payment, we worked on commission.
Oh, how
Okay.
did that? Okay, how did that work?
Yeah, well, the drivers got 49% of the meter plus the tips, and the garage took the other 51%.
So the commission rate was 51% for the medallion owners, basically, at that time.
Yeah, for the garage, whoever owned the medallions, you usually in the garage, all the medallions were owned by the garage that was running them, other than today where they're running other people's medallions. Okay.
And so when the taxi and limousine commission, how did the taxi, was that like a big deal, or was that like, okay, instead of the police department now the
What
PLC?
happened was in 1971 there was a union, okay, that was run by criminal gangsters. Okay, not Beta.
Very New York, very New York,
You know,
yeah.
you know.
Of course, why wouldn't it be run by
In
criminal
fact, I
gangsters?
remember
Yeah.
paying my dues one day,
Yeah.
and when John Gotti got convicted for murder and sent to jail, one of the guys came out on the news I'm watching, came out and said, he's a rat. He was talking about Sammy the Bull, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
said, that guy took money from me for the dues.
Oh my God. Okay.
I remember I said to myself, then I knew that it was a racket. But what happened was the union folded when leasing started.
So that
Okay.
union was kind of like was it an actual drivers union, or was that just like a front kind of
They
union?
just wanted the money and you didn't get much for it. Okay.
Okay, so it's kind of like a
But
quasi, yeah.
there was a strike, a taxi driver strike. All
Oh,
right.
what year was that about?
This was
What?
in 1971. Okay.
Oh,
And
okay.
the mayor was Lindsay,
Got it.
right? And
And what were they striking over?
money.
That, like, why is the garage taking 51%?
No, I think they just wanted more money overall. They wanted to be able to raise the rates. Okay.
Oh, the taxi meter. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so there was for 2 weeks there was no taxis on the street, and there was
Hmm.
no Ubers to take over. Okay, you know,
So that's such an interesting history. So in 1971, there were 2 weeks in New York where no one could take a taxi cab.
correct.
So
Yes.
how did okay, that just seems crazy to me. Okay.
Well, there were negotiations.
Yeah.
Okay, the city wanted the taxis on the street. Okay, and look, all I remember was, well, it's okay. I don't have to work until. I mean, I didn't demonstrate. I didn't. I was in favor of the strike. Okay, but I didn't take any uh you know part in what was happening. I just
Sure.
stayed home or did whatever I wanted to wait till the strike is over. But but one of the things that was agreed to was the TLC being created.
Interesting. So that's the
Okay,
origin story of the TLC is that
right,
strike basically.
and for the first 6 or 7 years of the TLC, they didn't do much except issue licenses, right? And
And you're talking about driver's licenses, not even the
no, the I'm talking about the license. They controlled the medallions. Okay, I guess if you wanted to sell a medallion, all right, okay, and they controlled the driver's hack license.
so but back in the 70s, like what was there were still about the 13,000-ish, 12,000-ish medallion, kind of that number around
It was
back then.
787 medallions.
Okay. So okay,
Okay,
that's
and
I love how you know the very the exact number.
that number was created after the Hass Act in the 1930s. Now the 1930s, I wasn't born yet. Okay,
Fair, yeah.
but this is the history that I know, and I believe somewhere on the TLC's website are these history lessons.
And
Okay,
so and so and that's exactly right. Like if people don't know, and we spoke about this on the podcast, yourself, Carolyn, myself,
yeah.
in 1937 there were riots, and and then
Well, yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the history. Yeah, I just know that the Hashtag was created because there were too many cars on the street, and none of the drivers were making enough money to say, to pay the bills.
and you're
Okay,
saying, and basically you're saying the creation of the TLC itself, and this is not going to be on the TLC website. This viewpoint is that there was a strike because the drivers wanted to have the taxi meter go up, and as a part of the negotiation, the creation of the Taxi and Limousine Commission happens.
that's the way I saw it. Yes.
Okay, at least that's the history from someone who lived
Right.
there, who's
Right.
someone who was a taxi driver back
Right.
then.
And what happened was in the mid 70s, around 75, 76. Okay, word was out, hearsay, okay,
Yeah.
that the TLC was going to start making rules.
Okay.
Okay, rules that the owners weren't going to like.
Interesting. Okay.
So in panic, they started selling off all the medallions. Okay.
Okay, that's actually I want to dig into that a little bit. So,
Yeah.
what year was that, and like what was how did that exactly work, that dynamic?
That was in the mid 70s. Okay, I don't have my finger exactly when that happened, but the medallions, and that's when they started leasing the cars rather than go for the 5149, because guys would take all these rides with no meter, with the meter off.
Oh, okay. So it was like
Yeah,
gypsy. It was like a lot of gypsy cab kind of stuff going on
there
back then.
was. Let me put it this way: this is what guys would say in the garage. Well, I'll make his money. It's 4 o'clock. I'm going to work. I'll have his money by about 6:30 or 7, and then the rest is mine.
And then and the way that works is he just turns off the meter
Correct.
essentially,
Just turns
and they're
off
just
the
doing
meter.
gypsy cab
They
work
they
basically.
even tried having a hot seat where they
Okay.
wired the hot seat where when the passenger sat down, the meter came on.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
And the
Yeah,
first thing the drivers would do is rip up the wires.
that would, yeah, yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Okay. So
I
then,
mean,
yeah.
it was a carnival. I mean, really, I mean, but still, the passengers in the street were, my part was I just liked doing it. And I remember one time, on an average day, if you made a $25 for yourself, you had a good night. Okay, you
And you
know.
could make that money like all like kind of, it was, what was like a
Well,
good
well,
day
the,
back
well,
then?
well,
Like how
well
much
the,
money you're
the
making?
the rates on the taxis was something like uh 25 cents to get in, and
Mm.
uh, and 5 cents every fifth of a mile,
That
something like
just
that.
those numbers are just unthinkable
But
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the economy was such, that was enough money to live on.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, with inflation and everything
Yeah,
that's gone
right.
on
Yeah.
since.
Okay.
What were getting now? This is probably going to be in your book. What were kind of some of the stories in those early days that you remember
Well,
that's in
well,
your
well,
book?
my stories I started writing when I was writing for the mini press, and that didn't happen until the 1990s. Okay, what happened was uh, um, I picked up somebody on Third Avenue and 93rd Street, right, and took him to JFK Airport, and I had a good knack for this story is in the book. It's called How I Became a Star. Okay,
Okay.
all right, and uh, we we were going to JFK, and he kept we the conversation was from the moment he got in the car until we got to JFK. So we spoke for about an hour. Okay, and I didn't know it, but he was auditioning me for MTV's Real World.
Oh, so okay, interesting.
Okay,
Okay.
but I didn't know it at the time. I just, I just figured, we're just having a
You're just having
conversation.
a conversation, yeah.
Yeah, and towards the end of the ride, I asked him what he did for a living, and he said, "Well, I'm in film production, and currently I'm working with MTV." And I said, well, do you ever need a taxi to do a video?" And he said, "Yeah, I might, I'm thinking about it." And he took my information, right? I dropped him off at JFK and rode out of the airport and forgot he was alive. Because,
Yeah, because that's just another guy. Yeah,
yeah, I'm thinking,
exactly.
yeah, sure, the guy's going to call me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
6 months later, right? 6 months later, I got home about 5 o'clock in the morning after working a night shift, and there was a message for me from somebody that they want to know if I'm available in my taxi on Sunday, right? And I'm wondering who could have called me, because I don't give out my number to people to call me for rides.
Yeah.
Okay, take another sip of water here. Okay.
No worries. No, no. This is such a great story. And just the real world for people don't know.
So,
Even it, it's like it was kind of like this
yeah,
phenomenon of. It's kind of like the first taste of reality TV on American television. You
I
know.
guess you can say that. So,
Yeah.
so, um, so I went to bed. They had left the phone number to call, right? I went to bed and woke up later, in the day, maybe 11, 12 o'clock, and I called the number, and now this is before smartphones. This was before cell phones. This was before the answering machines. Well, there was answering machines.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's answer. Okay.
Okay, and I get a message. You've reached MTV's Real World. Please leave your name and number, and we'll get back to you. And I froze, I froze, and I hung up the phone.
Did you
Right?
immediately connect that or you had forgot
No,
about that guy?
no, no. But he did tell me when he did mention Real World when I asked him uh, uh, if he needed somebody,
Yeah.
but I forgot I had forgotten all about him, and when the message said Real World, okay, I started thinking after I hung up the phone, I started thinking, and that's when I remembered the guy.
So
I
then you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
I kind of get this now. And was that season 1 or season 2 at like
it was the
at
very
its
first episode of Real World ever.
oh wow, so you're kind of part of television. That's like actual
I'm
television
part of
history.
television history. Okay. So I called back. I waited a little while and
Yeah.
I called back, and this time uh Ellen Lewis was her name.
Okay.
Okay. She knows who I am to this day. Okay. Uh but Ellen Lewis answers the phone, and she just said, and she just asked me if I would be available to pick somebody up at LaGuardia Airport, and we were going to videotape the whole ride. Okay.
And there
I
was like a single camera guy in your cab, I guess, or
Yes,
multiple people.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay. This video is still available on the MTV website.
We'll try. You know what? We'll put a link in at nyctaxinews.com, and also on our YouTube. We'll put a
Yeah,
link to it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I have the video, but I can't make it public because of copyright.
Yeah, the copyright,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. But to people that I know, I could show it. All right. But we went to I we went to I had to meet the guy 3 o'clock on on Sunday, and we drove out. I met him at the same place where I picked him up, so I assumed that he had an apartment there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Interesting.
what was his name? Can't remember. And it was Jonathan something. It's in the book. Okay, I remembered it when I wrote it. Okay, and I met
And this
him.
is in the chapter "How I Became a Star." This
How
is,
I became a star.
and this is like 90. What year is this?
1992.
1992. Okay.
Right.
So this is kind of like 20 years into driving yellow.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Right.
roughly.
Right.
Okay.
Oh well, he realized that I was a very experienced cab driver by that time, and I was for real. Okay.
Yeah, real world. You were real world. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right. So he had permission from the airport for the taxi to wait up where the passengers come out rather than be online. Okay, that he had gotten permission from the airport to do this videotape. Okay, and he wanted my instructions were just talk.
Oh, they
Okay.
did. That was it. That they didn't give you like
Yeah.
specific, like talk about this, talk
They
about that.
telling me to talk, and my mouth did not close for an hour and a half. Okay. Now,
And who did you pick? Who did you pick? I
Julie.
mean, I'm not a real world historian, but like, who did you pick up? Like, where was she from, or what?
He was from I think Alabama. Okay.
Oh, wow! And that was her first time in New York.
Her name was Julie.
And that was for her first time in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been a great conversation.
In fact, those are the words that they used. If this is your first time in New York, she said to me, how do you like driving a taxi? We spoke about everything. Okay. But they only used 39 seconds of me in the show.
Okay.
Right? A very memorable 39 seconds, because people saw it and immediately it stuck in their head. Because
No, I mean, this is season 1, episode 1, beginning of
season
Real
1,
World.
episode 1, it was May 1992. Okay, we did the shooting in February. and it aired in May. Okay.
Okay.
And she asked me, do you like driving? How do you like driving a cab? And I told her, well, it could be annoying sometimes because there's people everywhere, and you could be in the middle of traffic at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and 4,000 people want to get into your cab, and you got to go to the bathroom.
Fair
And she
enough.
says, what do you do? I said, whatever you can.
How
And
did she react to that? She was like, "What do
and
you
out of
mean?"
an hour and a half
Yeah.
of them videotaping me,
Yeah.
right? And and in fact, if you remember, there's somebody in the city council now who was arrested during that time. They called him the Central Park Five or something for beating up some woman or something, and they accused these.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A
right.
newly elected
Yeah, right.
person. Yeah.
And they realized after these people were in jail for a while that they weren't the ones. And one of these people, I forget, I know his name if I hear it, but he's on the city council now.
Oh, I think his name is Yusuf Salam, maybe.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Okay. I think I do. And in any
Yeah.
case, yeah.
Yeah, but in our conversation, I remember talking about that because it was current in the news.
Oh, wow. Okay. So interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
I also did some lip syncing to Johnny Maestro and the Crest 16
You
Candles.
gave her the ride of her lifetime.
I gave her the ride of her life.
Right? Welcome to New York. Yeah.
Yeah. I got paid for this. Okay.
Okay, well, that's good.
You
You got paid the meter, or you got paid additional to the meter?
Well, they gave me $140. Okay.
MTV did.
MTV. Yeah.
Okay, so now that's by the way a
Well, she
great.
paid the metered rate when the ride was over, to show that it was real, and then they paid me some extra money. It came to $140. I remember, which
Okay,
was
so
a good
that's
payment, which was a good paid thing at the time. But I did have to sign a contract, okay, saying that I wouldn't be getting any royalties. Okay.
okay, interesting.
Okay. I had no idea how many hundred times that would be showed on
Oh,
MTV. Yeah.
I had in the 90s, I had a lot of babysitters who were college age
Yeah.
women growing up in Western New York. And I still remember Real World was huge, like huge in the 90s.
It was a big
And so
hit.
if you're on season 1, episode 1, that's TV history. You're part of.
By the way, his name was Jonathan Murray. It just hit me.
The
Okay.
the MTV
The producer.
producer.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so you become this. Do you appear on? You don't appear on Real World again. I take it that was your.
No, but it led me to do other things. Okay, and I was on MTV another time.
Oh, you were MTV again? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, because I can do a Rubik's Cube in 3 minutes.
Okay, is that just a skill you have?
Yes. I learned how to do it. I learned it. I didn't figure out how to do it. I learned it from a book, and I have my cube right here, right now.
Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot. Can you still do it?
I'm not going to do it now. I'm not going to do it now, but you see that it's all done because I try to do it once a day.
That's incredible, by the way. They called you again, or how did they know this talent?
I started looking for I called Ellen Lewis after this was all over, and then she told me, you were great, Abe, she said, and then she told me when to watch for it on the air. And I said, how do I get to do more of this? I asked her, and she said, well, there was a newspaper at the time where auditions were listed. So I think the name of the show was why can't I remember names?
But it was on MTV though.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, well,
It was like an MTV variety show kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a variety show, and I can't remember the name, even though I know it. let me look at my other computer. Because I know the name of the show. You know, when you reach my age 76, you forget words.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that's okay, even if you don't remember it. But it was an MTV variety show, and we can even, if you can't find it immediately, we can put it in the description later on.
Well, if you forget, Oddville was the name of the show.
Okay, so you were on this. So you were on this show called Oddville, and
Right. They were looking for people to do odd things, and I told them I could do a Rubik's Cube in 3 minutes, and they put me on. And the first time they put me on Oddsville, they kept talking to me while I was doing it, because I'm not a fast guy. There's a lot of people that do the Rubik's Cube, and there's one nut on YouTube that says he could do it in 4 seconds, and I say that I want to see.
No, I don't even conceptually. I don't even understand how. Honestly, I don't even understand how 3 minutes is possible, let alone 4 seconds. Like I don't even understand.
Well, 3 minutes is when I'm in top shape. Okay, but I say to people, don't rush me. I can do it. And usually it takes me about 6 or 7 minutes.
So when you went on the show, you were kind of annoyed that, okay, I want to do this thing, and you're kind of making me, pat my head and rub my stomach at the same time, sort of thing, while I just want to...
Right. They were talking to me, asking me about Real World. The guy was saying to me, this isn't the first time you were on MTV, right? I said, no, I was in Real World, and I went and I started doing some student films, okay, and I got a few good parts in the student films, right, and I got into one real film with Frank Vincent, right, but I was only an extra. But
what was the name? What was the name of the film? Greavy. What is it? Hold on. Okay. And you were like, what were you doing while you look for it? What were you? And by the way, if you can't find, I didn't mean to put you on the spot again. But what were you? You were kind of in the background, waiting in a line or something like that.
Yeah, sort of. Grind.
Oh, that's a great name. Okay, okay.
There's another film with that name that's more recent, but this was in 1994 or so. The name of the film was Grind. So everybody knows who Frank Vincent is. Do you?
I've heard of the. I've heard of the name. Vincent, I'm not an expert on Frank
If you saw the film with Robert De Niro, can't remember that one either.
Well, he did a lot of films, to be fair.
Yeah, but this is the one where he was with Joe Pesci and
Goodfellas.
Yeah, Goodfellas, right?
Okay.
Yeah, well, Frank Vincent is the guy that they had in the trunk of the car, and they were stabbing him.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's okay. Now I know what you're talking about.
And Frank Vincent was in this film, right?
Okay.
And the way you do these films is you get more time sitting at the donut table than actually doing the film, right?
It's not as good. It's not as glad. It's kind of like a 6-hour ordeal for like a minute on camera.
Yeah, because they have to keep rearranging the cameras, and the director says this and that, right? And so Frank Vincent asked me how much are they paying you, right?
Oh, and Frank Vincent asked you how much are they paying you?
Yeah, and I said to him, "Well, I get to rub elbows with you." I said to him, and he goes, "They ain't paying you." He says to me, he got angry, and I.
He got angry by that answer that you gave him?
No, not at me, at them.
That they pay you at all?
Where did they get the nerve to put me in a film where I'm not getting paid? Okay.
Oh, you were not getting paid?
Not getting paid because I wasn't in SAG.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, I did a bunch of stuff. Okay. And after a while, I realized that this business is it's not all that is made out to be. For every actor that makes it big. There's about 100,000 actors that don't.
Oh yeah, it's just such
Well,
a
I
tough
didn't know that,
industry.
but you know something, I was living way out of the city. I was living 90 miles north. Okay, and had I been living in, if I knew about that while I was a resident of the city, I would have gone to more auditions. But I eventually got frustrated and said, okay, I had enough of this.
And this all, would you
You know,
say this all got triggered by that real world experience?
yes,
This all got, and so as you go through I remember you showed me a clip one time. You were on like CBS Sunday Morning
yeah,
as
right,
the
right, yeah,
best taxi driver in the world,
yeah,
and
right, yeah,
you did all of these things, and so you kind of became like a go-to person, and I can understand why, because I know you long, I've spoken to you long enough. You have a great speaking personality. You can, you're the quintessential New Yorker. So you did all of these things, and correct me if I'm wrong, weren't you known as the best taxi driver in the world or something like that?
well, by my own words. I was
The self-proclaimed best taxi
I was
driver in the
the
world.
I'm New York's #1 cab driver.
Oh, that's great. That's
And
amazing. That's
I
great.
really meant it. Okay, and I really was, because I unlike all of the drivers, in my career that came from other countries, I
Yeah.
grew up in Brooklyn.
No, you're like, it's kind
I
of like you
knew,
had that.
right. I knew my way around before I stepped into a
Yeah.
taxi.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
I
like
knew.
driving around your neighbor, like you're driving around like where you grew up kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, in the beginning, the first 4 or 5 years, I exclusively worked my yellow cab in Brooklyn.
And so how was, like, what are the other stories that you tell in the book? So when people, and we'll obviously provide the links to where to buy, like, what are the other memorable stories that you want to mention, to
Well,
kind of,
the stories of people that I met, people that they know, people that were just good to me. Okay, here, let me look at the table of contents here. I'm gonna read a few things. A happy passenger. That's a girl who, unfortunately, she passed away, but I gave her a pep talk and she loved it so much. I had given her my card. I said, if you want to talk to me some more, you can call me.
so she was
Right.
going through some troubles kind of thing.
Yes, she had the breast cancer. Okay, she was young.
Okay.
Okay, all right, and she wound up passing away. But before she passed away, she did a whole cartoon thing of,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you got to see that much. Let me just hold this up.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Oh, that's fantastic.
she,
And this
she
was,
did
yeah.
she did the whole ride, and her feelings at the time in this cartoon, and mailed it to me.
Oh,
Okay.
that's incredible. Okay.
Yeah, I know. All right. And
Hmm.
I was very sad to find out I had lost touch with her. We stayed in touch for a while because I had given her information to do, to do a cartoon of my U.S. Army days.
Yeah.
Okay. I had, a lot to talk about then. And when I didn't hear from her for a couple of years, I decided to try to figure out where she was. Okay. And she was a Facebook friend, and I looked at her page, and I saw she hadn't written for a while. Okay. And then doing searching on the internet, I found out that she passed away.
Oh,
Okay.
that's,
Yeah, I felt
that's so
terrible
sad.
about that. Okay. Really, but this is life, and other stories. Uh, my experience with James Brown, the Godfather of Soul.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
let me look through this table.
You're talking about like the I feel good, James. I feel good, James Brown.
Yeah, I feel
Okay.
good. Yeah, James Brown. He's the Godfather of
Yeah,
Soul.
that's like an icon. That's an iconic.
Well, he signed a trip card. It was 1983. He signed a trip card, and I didn't put a picture of the trip card in the book because I didn't know how to do it, but I do now. If I rewrite the book.
What is? Forgive me if
Yeah.
maybe I'm the. What is a trip card?
Oh, a trip card is before. I'm laughing because we had to fill out trip cards you know, until 2008. Okay.
Okay, I have no background to this.
Of every fair that I have I have the trip card. I'm going to email you.
Is it like a receipt or is it more than a receipt?
No, it's not a receipt. It's just a record of of all the fairs. You know,
Oh, like where you
if
picked
you
up
pick somebody
someone.
up, if you pick somebody up on 34th and Lexington, right? You got to write down 34th and Lexington. Where are you going? I'm going up to the Bronx to Fordham Road. You got to write down Fordham Road on the trip card, and you got
Okay.
to do this for every trip you do.
Oh my, and
Okay.
then you handed the trip card to the garage?
Yeah, and if you didn't do it correctly, the TLC had fines for that.
Wow. Okay. And this
Okay.
was all the way to 2008?
Yeah, when it became electronic.
Okay, which I think everybody probably
When
celebrated.
they could
Yeah,
do it with GPS.
got it. And
Okay.
Abe, when did you drive into, like, when was your last trip?
My first trip was September 20th, 1970, and my last trip was November 25th, 2012.
So a good 42 years, let's say, you
Yeah,
drove
right,
the yellow
right.
cab. And so
Yeah.
you in this book, which is it's only about 165 pages, I think.
Only 165 pages.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I think for people, I think it's really interesting that you're going to get this firsthand perspective from a
yeah,
real, legitimate, genuine, real world
yeah,
NYC yellow cab
right.
driver was in it for
I'm going to
42
read a
years.
couple of titles here. Sam Kinison, okay. The Princess of Paramus, okay. The $700 parking ticket, okay. The stolen taxi. Now I'm remembering all these stories. Okay, the tennis racket, uh, and then there's some short stories I wrote. The nerve of some people. The girl with the gun in her bra. Okay.
That sounds very interesting.
The bicycle in the back window. Okay, someone threw a bicycle through my back window. Okay, he didn't accidentally do it.
While you were driving or while you were
No, he
parked?
didn't. No, well, I was parked, and he
Okay.
didn't like the way I parked, so he threw his bicycle through the window.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay. The gun in Long Island, 4 hands on the cash, the diaphragm. Okay, this is somebody who left something in the taxi, and
This almost sounds like you can make a sitcom out of this.
I know, and it was my nephew who does filming in Hollywood who encouraged me to write a book because I kept
Okay.
telling him all these stories. Okay, and he does filming for Tubi. Okay,
Okay.
not as a client, but they use a lot of his films. Okay, and he wanted to take this up to MTV to CNN rather. That's
Yeah.
CNN.
To Warner?
HBO.
HBO. Okay. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to take it up to, and he just never gets around to it. Okay, you hear
Let
me?
me ask you, as a real NYC cab driver through the
Yeah.
70s, through all this time, which movies or shows come to mind that you're like, that is the most realistic like
Taxi,
depiction?
Taxi Driver with the real Robert De Niro. From
That you feel like that was like the most real
of the time, it was very real,
Hmm.
except for the fact that at the end of the movie he winds up shooting the pimp, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But I wouldn't suggest to anybody that they do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah.
Right.
Never
I
a good,
would,
never a good idea to
I
shoot a
wouldn't even
pimp. Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't even suggest that you carry a weapon. First of all, it's against the law.
Hmm.
Okay. And I had a driver. I had hired a driver. His name was Ben Lipkin. Okay, he's passed away a long time ago. But I was only in my 30s, and he was 72, which I've passed that, but I thought of him as an old man. Okay, at that time, and he showed me a gun he was carrying. Okay, and I said, "And what are you going to do with that gun?" He goes, "Well, I'll use it to defend myself." And I said, "Before you can get that gun out of your pocket, you'll be dead."
And what was his response to that?
he knew what I was. He agreed.
And so you're Ben Lipkin, what this gentleman you knew, he was like a driver from the 30s and 40s and
Yeah,
50s.
in fact, he started driving in the 1940s, right?
Okay.
And he told me, it wasn't until 1955, I believe, or the mid 50s somewhere,
Sure.
that all the streets, all the avenues in Manhattan, or most of them, became one-way streets. Okay.
Oh, I see.
They were
Like
all
Park Avenue is like two-way now.
but that yeah, well that they didn't change. Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying
Yeah.
every street had like a two-way street
Yeah,
versus
right,
a one.
right,
Okay,
right.
got it.
And I was too young in the 1950s to be aware. I remember reading about it or hearing it on the news, but that's when they decided to make all the streets one way either way.
Yeah, yeah. For traffic flow or
First
whatever.
Avenue going north and Second Avenue going south.
Yeah.
And he said on Fifth Avenue, they had the police sat up in something high or off the middle of the road. And I said to him, well, why are they sitting up there? And he said, they changed the lights.
Oh, okay, okay. Like like with like a lever
Yeah,
or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
I mean, even as old as I am now, I was kind of young when he told me that, and I said they had to change the lights, and he said, yeah.
Did they kind of like he probably, I mean, he could hold up traffic or let traffic go, and he had a lot of I mean, it's kind of like that's so interesting. Like you don't even think about that. But so that's so interesting. So if you had to describe like the industry to like, let's say there's, the new generation is like Uber drivers or yellow cab drivers or stuff like that in New York. We've covered it in the podcast and we're continue to cover it. I just want to hit on this point about this gun point where, it's kind of on the national news that crime is getting bad and like crazy stuff is happening. What do you suggest to people?
I wouldn't be surprised if there are some, taxi drivers or livery drivers, or whatever they drive, and picking up people. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are carrying weapons. Okay. And my advice would be don't.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's important advice for any of the drivers, because I feel like some people have messaged me as well saying that, oh, maybe you should start carrying, weapons and stuff like that. And I think for someone who's lived through so many, the 70s, the 80s and all of that stuff, I think that coming from you, that's good advice.
Things are different now, but in my day, I only got robbed one time, and that story is in here. Okay, it's called Baltic and Bond because that's where it happened. Okay, and a couple of times I was larcenied. The difference between larceny and robbery.
I feel like I don't. I feel like I don't know.
Robbery is when you're threatened. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And larceny is when somebody just grabs something and runs.
Got it. It's almost like a carjacking versus like your car getting stolen.
I've had people, they suggest everything was cash. Everything was cash up until the mid 2008 or something.
Sure.
When they started with the credit cards. Okay. And we always kept many drivers, me included, kept the dollar bills. Like, I still do it. I have money. Okay. And I would keep it in my shirt pocket here, like that. And I would keep it nice and neat. A lesson I learned, I still do it. Okay. And they'd say, well, people will grab it out of your pocket, but it was very convenient to keep it there. Okay. So a couple of times I got larceny that way. But there was one time I had, and this story is in there too. I was sitting in front of Penn Station, putting some money away, holding it like this, when all of a sudden there's four hands on the money.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God.
Right. This was in front of Penn Station on 8th Avenue.
And was there a bit of a tug of war? They just
we were tugging back and forth, but after a couple of moments, I decided to let it go. I said, let him have it. This guy
Yeah.
might shoot you,
Yeah.
you know?
I think
And
that's, you know, in all serious, I think that's such an important
yeah,
thing to say right now, because I think I think you're right, given where things are going. That's like history's going to repeat itself, given the crime and stuff going on in the city now,
yeah, I know.
where it's important to hear what you're saying. What do you hope people get out of the book, whether it's drivers or people who love New York or just like are interested by taxi industry? Like,
They
what do you
get to
want?
know what it's like to be a cab driver. You know, if you ever wonder what is it like, and a lot of people do, because I know that because they're always asking me what it's like when I'm driving. Okay, and by the way, I just want to say about the four hands on the money. Uh, he took the money and ran,
Yeah.
and less than 10 seconds later, somebody jumped in the back seat of my cab and said, "Take me to 85th in New York." Okay, and there I am, shocked.
Yeah, like adrenaline, like just adrenaline
Yeah,
rush,
right.
and yeah.
And I'm saying, and I start telling them the story, and it's like, oh, well, that's okay. You know, see if we're sorry to hear that. You know, and it's like this is New York. It's like that's
Whatever.
not
Yeah,
a
yeah,
problem. That's
yeah.
not our problem. Our
Exactly.
problem is
Can you get to the destination
we got
enough?
to
Yeah.
get to 87th in
Yeah.
New York. You know, it's really look.
Too
Look,
busy to care.
I want
Exactly.
I want to say something. Okay, I have a friend that goes back to grade school with me. Okay, junior high school, and he's read my books, right? And I have another book. I just want to show you this
And we'll,
one.
by the way, we'll provide links for. I know you're
Yeah,
going to
I
put it
know.
on
Yeah, I
nyctaxinews.com,
have
but
this
when we
other
put it on
book,
YouTube.
right? And he said,
Oh, Abe,
and
could you hold that a little bit higher? Sorry.
yeah, that
Okay,
good,
the life of a kid from Brooklyn. Okay.
right? Okay, and and um and he wrote me on Facebook, a text message, right? He said, "Abe, I just read your books, and then we're the same age, right? Because we
Yeah.
know each other since school, right?" He said, "I just read your books, and it tells me what a boring life I had."
But he grew. Oh, okay. A boring life versus you.
He
He had.
had, in other words, your life was so exciting, Abe, that my life I'm thinking that my whole life was boring. You know,
Well, okay. Well, maybe to make him feel better, maybe you had a particularly exciting life, and he had like a normally a good life.
he just had a normal life. He went to
Yeah,
work
yeah,
every day, went home every night, fought with his wife probably, and
yeah.
then didn't have a lot of fun. But I managed to have a lot of fun in my life, like I'm having right now, just making
No,
this
that's
video. This is everything. You have to be active. That's how you stay young. Okay, that's how you feel young. All
do you
right.
do you miss interesting question. Do you miss driving at all, or you were done with it? In 2012, you were like, I'm done.
I miss it in my mind, but I know I don't want to do it anymore.
Mm.
Okay, all right. I mean, look, I enjoyed. There was only two times that I didn't enjoy it. Either I was too hungry, to drive, and
Sure.
somebody was in the car, or I desperately had to go to the bathroom and somebody was in the car, or I was stuck in traffic and I couldn't get to go to the bathroom. I mean, I don't want to get into some of the things that it led to, you know, but there were no bathrooms for drivers in the city.
I
To
feel
this
like that's
day,
still an issue today.
I
Like a
know, and
lot of
it's
people
still an issue,
complain. Yeah.
and I had my spots, where I knew I could park and pull over and pee in the street. Okay. And I didn't write any of them, but I could, and I don't know what the streets are like now. They're different now with all the bus lanes and the bike lanes, but
Sure.
all those streets were wide open. And I had pretty much anywhere I was in Manhattan, where the problem really is, because it's not much in Queens. There's always a McDonald's you can pull into, or a Burger King.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, but in Manhattan, you got to have spots. You got to have your spots.
You had a mental map, like, okay,
I
if
had a
I'm
mental
here,
map of what
this is
street I could pull over and pee.
got it. No, I mean that
Right?
honestly, in all seriousness, that makes a lot of sense. You're sitting
You
in
know,
the car.
one time I got a summons for peeing in the street, right? And you're gonna laugh at this,
Okay.
okay? I mean, I wasn't on Fifth Avenue and 42nd Street. It was somewhere where I could do it, privately, right? But the next thing I knew, there was one of these sanitation guys behind me, and he wrote me a summons, right? And I went to court, and I made this argument. My argument was, why don't I have the same rights as a dog?
I mean, that's a what did they say? What did they say to you?
And the guy said to me, well, you're right, but that'll cost you $75.
Okay, that's such an interesting argument. I never thought about that argument. Why don't I have the same rights as a dog?
I
That's
mean,
so
people have to pick up their manure,
yeah.
but they can't pick up the peeing, right? They just pee in the street, the dogs,
Yeah,
right?
no, I'm like, you're kind of blowing. I'm just trying to like, yeah, it's kind of an interesting argument that you're making.
Well,
What?
why don't I have the same rights as a dog?
Yeah, I feel like that's such a memorable line. I think you have another line, Abe, that you just got. I mean, in as we wrap this up, and obviously you if people don't know, they can find, we're going to put this all in the description. They can find you at nyctaxinews.com. We're going to put a link in the description of where to buy your book. The last question I want to ask you, and I'll give you the last word, is that what do you see as the future of the New York City taxi industry? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot, and we'll talk about it more, but where do you think this is all going? You think it's going to be self-driving?
The only real taxis in New York City are yellow. Okay, and I only hope and pray that someday, the rotten things that they did to make yellow taxis and not what they were, will somehow reverse itself. Okay, but Uber ruined it all forever for everybody, not just the yellow cabs. Okay, and I don't know why they allowed it, or I could surmise why they allowed it, except I don't know who to exactly. I wouldn't mention names in public, of who I think took the bribes. Okay, but money talks.
I know it's so true in many ways, and I think you're
and I'm not going to make accusations at this corruption, but in my mind, I know all that has done it.
You get a honestly, being a New Yorker, as long as you have you get a sixth sense of these things.
Well, I'll just say one thing. One man who said it himself was Mike Bloomberg, who said, and it's on record, okay. And if you go on, if you put this into a search, you'll find it. I'm going to destroy your fucking industry, he said. Okay.
Oh, I think I know. You're referring to what he said to the Friedman, Gene Friedman.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. And then he said, "Did I say that?" Well, it hasn't been taken offline yet. Okay, but the Atlantic magazine posted a story. Okay, and if you Google search that, you'll read it. Okay,
it's still in the record.
And the lives that were ruined, okay, such as my own, somehow I'm surviving. Okay, but it denied me all that I worked for 50 years.
And I think that's, and I think, and for the people who are watching this should know that, you are reporting on the industry. I can't think of a better, you're probably more on top of the industry than anyone I know. So people should know that it's not that you wrote this one-off book and then that's it. You're covering this industry every single day at nyctaxinews.com, and we'll provide a link. And then you, myself, and Carolyn, you know, we host a podcast every once in a while. And you've been doing that even before, you know, I was doing it. So I also want to make sure people know that this is not like just a book you wrote and then you're sailing off into the sunset. You're still very much covering this industry and all the going-ons, you know, of what's happening.
I'm still a part of it. I still own a medallion.
Exactly.
Okay.
So people should know that. People should know that
Yeah.
this isn't like, you know, you're out of the game and, you know, you're still very much in it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. So I'll give you the last word, and you know, talking with you, Abe, you know, I can understand why the MTV guy chose you. We can go on for hours and hours and hours, but
Right.
we'll post a link to the book and everything. And do you just want to show people the book, the title, just to remind them?
Well, let's go for a ride.
Yeah, let's go for a ride. Exactly. And so we'll post, and you can, where can you buy it, Abe? Like, where can people find this, and where can people find you?
Well, I have a link on the message board in NYC Taxi News.
Okay.
I'll put another link down, but Barnes and Noble sells the paperbacks.
Okay, great.
So if you go to Barnes and Noble's website and just type in either the title of the book or my name, okay, there are other publications, I think, with the same name. Okay.
Got it.
Okay, just type in my name, Abe Middleman, and my TT-LEMAN, and both my books will come up. Okay.
Got it. And we'll provide a link as well, and you're going to post it on nyctaxinews.com. So listen, Abe, we're going to talk again on our podcast as we usually do. Yeah. But thank you. Number one, thank you so much for writing the book. I think it's so important for people to document that history.
Yeah, I just want to say a lot of my cab gab items are in here. Okay, things I wrote while I was still driving. Okay,
and Cab Gab is like a publication of some sort.
Cab Gab was my column in Mini Press.
Got it. Okay, it
was a newspaper, Mini Press, and many people out there remember it, I'm sure. Okay, and that was run by Alan Decker. He was a lawyer. He passed away in 2011. Okay, and that was the end of Mini Press. Okay, but for 16 years I wrote this column, Cab Gab.
And can people find your columns on your website?
Yeah, on the very front page there's a link for not all of them, but for many of them.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll provide a link.
So some of them I found in my, you know, that I still had them in paper, and I wound up, you know, just scanning them and putting them in the book. Okay, and the table of contents here has it has about 60 stories of things. I'm just guessing the number. Okay, but let me get the table of contents. You can see the table of contents. Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's so interesting, and I just wanted to stress to people that it's not like a 700-page book. It's just 165 page. Yeah.
You don't have to read it all at once. You know, you can read it's not the story that you're following and saying, well, what happens next? It's just you know, and I wonder what the next story is. Okay.
Yeah. It's literally made for a sitcom. It's like a Seinfeld sort of sitcom.
I know. I tell you, and I'm very proud of doing this.
No, that's great, and I think a lot of people should thank you for doing it, because you know, you combine the experience, but you're eloquent, you can write, so you know, it's a very rare combination. So, well, listen, Abe, we'll end it there. You'll post this on your website. We'll post it on our website at Auto Marketplace, on YouTube as well. And just people don't forget that you're still very active on nyctaxinews.com, and you know, you're still talking about the industry.
Right. Okay. And I appreciate you doing this video.
Oh, my pleasure. So, okay, Abe, take it easy, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Bye, everyone.